My name is Aisha Khan, and I am the lead Spanish program consultant here at Clout World Languages. And I'm excited to share with you one of our amazing middle and high school programs, Reporteros. Let's get started. Reporteros is inclusive and perfect for a 4-level Spanish program aimed at middle and high school students. It follows a communicative approach and has projects that are inspired by real-world scenarios. Its authentic and engaging content awakens students' curiosity about the Spanish-speaking world, and it perfectly aligns with the actual world readiness standards. There are 4 levels of Reporteros, ranging from novice low all the way to intermediate high. Levels 1 and 2 have been published already. Levels 3 and 4 will be published in June of 2023 and 2024, respectively. Level 1 can be split into 1A and 1B if you prefer a shorter program for your students. Each level comes with several different components. The student edition and the workbook are available in both print and digital format. They include 6 units per level and are divided into 2 lessons per unit. The teacher's edition is also available in a print and digital format, and we also offer an online e-learning platform called the Spanish Hub. Here's an example of the scope and sequence from Reporteros Uno. You can see that we have a variety of themes and topics that students will delve into, like friends and family, home, and even school and education. Teachers can get a quick glance at the types of projects, grammar, vocabulary, and culture that are embedded throughout the series. Let's take a look at Reporteros in 8 facts. Number 1, Reporteros has an engaging concept. The units are based on specific Spanish-speaking countries, and they offer a contemporary view of Spanish cultures. We really strive to be free of stereotypes and make our content as appealing to teenagers as possible. Each unit is presented by a real-life teenager who is a young journalist, a reportero or reportera. Together, they create a magazine called Somos Reporteros, where they publish articles and videos on things that interest them in their culture. Here's an example of a video introduction from one of our reporteras. Let's take a look.
Pura vida, soy Fernanda, tengo 17 años y soy tica. ¿Saben de dónde soy? De Costa Rica. Tico y tica es el nombre que recibimos la gente de mi país. Costa Rica es un país pequeño, pero muy lindo.
Here we have an example of the Somos Reporteros magazine that the reporteros put together. This one was written by Sebastián Martínez from Puerto Rico. He wrote about Arturo Schomburg, who is considered the father of Afro-Latino and African-American history. Your students will not only learn about cultural and historical content from different Spanish-speaking cultures, they'll begin to practice their interpretive reading skills right from the beginning. We know input is so important for our learners. 2. The unit organization addresses teachers' needs and wishes. The unit is organized in a way that it's very clear what students will be working on from the beginning. Students and teachers can find the essential questions at the beginning of the unit that will guide students' learning and promote critical thinking skills throughout the unit. You'll also find the mini projects and the final project listed at the top of the page, broken down by lesson. You will be introduced to the reportero or reportera and their home country, and there's an opening activity based on that video. On the next page, we can find even more information about what students will do during that unit. You can see here the communication goals, the vocabulary and grammar structures that will be touched on throughout the unit, and the cultural aspects that students will learn. We introduce authentic resources right from the beginning to help students dive into the country and region that they will be studying. Technology is ever present throughout Reporteros, and we start with that input coming from the Reporteros chat. As I mentioned, culture is so important for us, and the 5 C's are listed and embedded throughout the entire unit as well. To make sure that students understand what they should be able to do throughout the unit, we've clearly indicated the can-do statements so that students can follow their progress and set their learning goals. The activities are introduced with active language like escribe, habla, escucha, so students understand what communication skills are being worked on. Students will work on all 4 skills in 3 modes throughout every unit. We've kept our list of vocabulary and grammar short and concise and asked students to pull out just a few to actively work on in each activity. We've color-coded the vocabulary and grammar as well to make them easy references for students. For those that want a more traditional view of grammar, we offer that as well too. Students can see visual and color-coded explanations of grammar in the form of diagrams, outlines, and examples, and we've included practice activities for each grammar structure students will be looking at. On the Spanish Hub, students can find grammar tutorials and self-check quizzes if they'd like a little bit more practice or study. The vocabulary is presented in a visual way that is clear for students to understand what the words are they're working with. They're listed in alphabetical order, and students can even listen to a text recording of the words to practice their pronunciation. Once again, there are self-check quizzes on the Spanish Hub if students would like to assess their skills further. At the end of each lesson, we'll find the mini proyecto. These projects are real-life tasks where students are asked to create a final product focusing on the grammar, vocabulary, and cultural content from the unit. We even offer an alternative version of the final product for your students as well. Rubrics can be found on the Spanish Hub, both to assess the project and also self-and-peer assessments for group project work. At the end of each unit, we've got the Proyecto Final, which is also based on a real-life task. Students are given a context, an audience, and are asked to create a final product. We've given them step-by-step instructions, helpful tips and strategies, and a visual example of what their final product should look like. In Reporteros, we offer a variety of assessment tools, like the mini projects, the final project, but also integrated performance assessments. In order to prepare for those assessments, which are located on the Spanish Hub, we have this section here, Preparo la Evaluación. Students will work on the 3 modes of communication and 4 skills using authentic documents in order to prepare for that final assessment and feel that they can be successful on it. We've included grammar and vocabulary references for their study tips, as well as the assessment rubrics on the Spanish Hub. Teachers have full flexibility and are able to pick and choose which assessments they would like to use for their students. Any combination that works for you is perfect. At the end of every unit, we also have the Nuestras Culturas cultural comparison section. If your students are working towards AP Spanish Language and Culture, this is a great way to vertically align your culture. If your students are working towards AP Spanish Language and Culture, this is a great way to vertically align your curriculum. Students are asked to compare their home culture to the culture of the reportero or reportera being focused on in that unit. We provide tips and strategies for students to complete this comparison, and even provide a My Progress self-assessment chart in the form of can-do statements so students can see where they started and where they're going. 3. Reportero speaks to today's young learners. There are plenty of games and fun classroom ideas throughout the student edition to keep students engaged. We know now more than ever it's important to really engage students in content and make things interesting and fun for them. Technology is represented throughout Reporteros, and we understand that it's a critical aspect of students' contemporary life. For example, we want tasks that relate to students' actual lives. In this case, they're asked to create a profile for a social media platform, and that's something they've probably done many times over. We want our content to be engaging and authentic and relate to students' real lives. So for example, here we have a concert poster that came from an actual concert in Puerto Rico that your students might be interested in going to. 4. Practice, practice, and more practice. The workbook. Throughout the workbook, you can find an abundance of activities to practice and expand students' grammar and vocabulary skills. For every activity in the student book, we've got some practice in the workbook. There's also a section called Comunicación, where students specifically work on the 3 modes of communication to help them prepare for those integrated performance assessments. 5. Reporteros is an invaluable tool for differentiation. On the Spanish Hub, we offer a variety of differentiation worksheets. For example, Opción A is for students who need an accommodation. We've taken the same activities we have in the student book, given them a little bit more scaffolding, chunked things, added visuals, and even included some more close-ended activities for those students who need a little bit of help. Opción B, the challenge version, again, the same activity from the textbook, the same activity from Opción A, but now we've taken away some of that scaffolding, taken away some of those visuals, and added some more open-ended activities. Lastly, we offer the heritage worksheets, but now it's entirely in Spanish. The Teacher's Edition is an invaluable tool to differentiate our students' learning as well. There are many ways suggested in the Teacher's Edition to accommodate and also challenge our students further. In the Student Edition, we also offer those learning strategies to help students identify how they learn best and introduce them to different study skills to help them develop their own routines. 6. Reporteros is a promoter of equity and inclusion. The young journalists, the reporteros, reporteras, that are the main characters of all of our units come from different backgrounds, different countries, and represent different groups of people. Our authentic documents also come from a variety of different cultures, and we really want to show students that they are valued, they are important, and they are included in their Spanish curriculum. 7. Reporteros includes a robust assessment plan. On the Spanish Hub, you can find our assessment program. As I mentioned, we offer a variety of assessment tools, and you as the teacher are able to pick and choose what works best for your students in your classroom. For example, we have quizzes at the end of each lesson. They include closed-ended and semi-open activities that assess students' proficiency on grammar, vocabulary, the 3 modes, and the 4 skills. As I mentioned previously, we have the integrated performance assessments that align with the ACFA World Readiness Standards. If you'd like to assess students mid-year and at the end of the year, we include midterm and final exams, as well as pre-course questionnaires and diagnoses if you would like to test students to assess their placement at the beginning of the year. We also include progress charts for students to reflect on their progress throughout the unit and the year. We want to keep in mind that these progress charts reflect a growth mindset. We might not be there yet, but we can get there, and we offer extra activities if they want to improve their skills. As I mentioned previously, we also have self and peer assessment rubrics for each type of our projects. It helps students reflect on their ability to work with others and complete the task that was assigned to them. We also have the assessment rubrics for those projects, the culture comparison, and the integrated performance assessments. Teachers have everything they need to be able to assess their students in a variety of different ways, but also it allows them to be flexible and pick and choose what works for them. 8. Reporteros digital resources on the Spanish Hub. On our e-learning platform, the Spanish Hub, both students and teachers have access to a variety of components and resources, like an enriched e-text version of the student edition and the workbook, as well as an enriched e-text version of the teacher's edition. Not only do we have those e-texts, but we have HTML fully interactive versions of both the student edition and the workbook. Besides that, we have so many other resources like AP and IB guides, heritage and differentiation worksheets, closed captioning and auto descriptions, the assessment program, and so much more. All of the activities on the student edition and the workbook are interactive and assignable to your students. Students can write directly in the text input fields, record themselves, attach files, self-correct, redo, and send their work to their teacher, plus so much more. The teachers can personalize the activities, assign homework, control the number of attempts, correct students' work and offer feedback, track their students' progress, and create their own content, as well as so many other things. It's 100% customizable depending on what you and your students need. We've reached the end of our presentation for Reporteros. We've talked about all of the components and resources available to you throughout Reporteros 1 through 4. If you'd like to reach out, my email address is on the screen. Thank you for listening to this presentation. And don't forget to follow us on all of our social media channels.